Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the Magicshine SEEMEE 508 Radar Taillight Safety Light. Situational awareness is one of the most important aspects of cycling, as you should always be riding defensively. Rear radar systems are a passive way to detect vehicles behind you, but has been expensive as the Garmin Varia has been the only option on the marketplace. It's all changed now with the introduction of the Magene L508 and the co-developed Magicshine SEEMEE 508 that we're going to be reviewing today. You can see packaging wise, very simple. You have the classic orange and black color scheme that Magicshine is known for. Nice glossy illustration of the radar on the outside. And you can see co-developed between Magicshine and Magene right on the box. Basic features printed on here. So I'll go ahead and take it out of the box and we'll go over the specs. Retail price on this is $139.99, so quite a bit cheaper than the equivalent Garmin unit. It's a rear radar system with up to 140 meter detection range and a 40-degree beam angle, so you can actually see around corners. It has a 20 lumen output taillight built into it with a built-in brake sensor, which is one of the features that the SEEMEE 508 really introduces to the radar field. You also have 5 different output modes that can also be customized by a Magene Utility App, which lets you turn off the radar in different modes or change the timing of the flash modes. In terms of what comes with it, you get the taillight itself, obviously. So it's the SEEMEE 508, visually identical, and has the same feature set as the Magene. You have the instruction manual that shows you how to operate it and set it up. The mount for your seat post. Multiple O-rings for attaching it, as well as a tether as an extra security feature just to make sure it doesn't fly off. You also have a USB Type-C charging cable, which is a really nice feature. So it uses a USB Type-C charging port instead of a traditional serial port, which a lot of the Garmin devices actually still use. Now let's take a look at the weight of the SEEMEE 508. So the radar taillight unit itself is only 62 grams. And then the mount with the standard O-ring that comes in at 20 grams, so a light package overall. Visually, the SEEMEE 508 radar looks quite similar to the Garmin Varia, which is not surprising. You have a top-mounted taillight and then the bottom radar surface. You need a large flat surface to bounce the radio waves back to the device, and it makes sense to put the taillight right above it, as you need to mount this on your seat post anyway. So it's a nice 2-in-1 device. With this co-developed design, it's identical to the Magene. It just has different branding. You have Magicshine on here instead, and it's available through the Magicshine website. But otherwise, same functionality and same features. You can see it has a glossy finish on the rear. It's not our favorite design, as it looks a little bit dated just with the round LED design, but still looks good. And you can see when it's off, it has a sleek, smoked look, but when you turn it on, it actually is quite bright. So you have a ring of LEDs, and it's only 20 lumens, but again, surprisingly bright for those limited output. And you do have side visibility up to 220 degrees, as the lens itself is a little bit transparent on the edges. On the back side, you have a Garmin mount. So the included mount works really well. It's just a quarter turn style mount. So you can see the tabs are horizontal. You would line it up, do a quarter turn, and it locks into place. Nice and secure, and you can see it's a standard full-size Garmin mount, so you don't need a proprietary mount, and you can use your existing ones if you already have one. The mount itself is also really nicely designed, as with all the SEEMEE products. They've developed one mount for every type of seat post. So if you have an aero seat post, you can see that center cutout. That works perfectly, as it's very narrow, and it keeps it secure. You have a round cutoff above that, perfect for round seat post. And then a squared off one, which is great for square seat post. So everything's covered in one simple mount. It uses a simple O-ring mount design with the hooks actually cut into the mount itself. So it's kind of a cool design. So you can see it just cuts through the edges instead of having an exposed hook. So a little bit sleeker. And you can also see it has a very steep angle for the rubber mount, which ensures that the radar sits horizontal. And you want to make sure it's actually horizontal with the ground, because you want the brake sensor to be calibrated correctly and the radar to have the optimal angle. The user interface is a single button, so hold it to turn it on. And then you have 6 different modes to choose from, including a simple Peloton mode, which actually turns off the light. So it looks like it's off, but it's actually on, and you can see that with the indicator light. So that little indicator light will flash briefly to indicate that the radar functionality is on, but you have just the taillight functionality off. So nice feature, and this lets you conserve the battery but keep the radar functionality. Now let's go over the Magene app. When this was first introduced, there was a lot of controversy over this, something about a $5 fee or subscription requirement. Today, it's actually just free and no login required. You just press skip, which is really nice. So you just jump right in and you connect your device. You can see it found our SEEMEE 508. Tells you the version number, serial number. Very simple app. It's one page. With the 4 modes with the light on, you can see you can change the radar on or off per mode independently, which is a nice feature. The 5th mode, which is radar only, no light, obviously it doesn't have that option. So that's the basic option you have for each. There's also the flashing speed. There's a couple preset values in here. So it's a little bit weird, it's not very useful. I don't think anybody really cares about a 2-second or 4-second flash, but you can change them, at least for the flash options. The only other option you have is the auto sleep, which turns this onto a standby mode, which is nice. So it says after 5 minutes, I'll go to standby, and then when it wakes up, I'll wake up if you move again. There is no way to turn off the brake sensor, which is a little bit surprising. That's a feature we really would have liked to see, because the brake sensor can really reduce the runtime. But otherwise, very simple, and honestly, there's not much of a reason to download this app, unless you really want to change the speeds or turn off the radar and some of the other settings. But I think by default, everything works pretty well, and unless they add a brake sensor disable feature, I wouldn't really bother. The SEEMEE 508 has 6 different operation modes. You have a solid mode with 20 lumens and 6-hour runtime, a low-high flash with 20 lumens and 10-hour runtime, pulse, which is a gradual up and down, that's good for 12 hours, Peloton, which is a 6-lumen lower-powered solid mode, that's good for 8, and then a fun rotate mode that spins around the LEDs, that's good for 10. Finally, you have radar mode, which is just the radar functionality, that's good for 16 hours, and that's great for times where you have another taillight, or you just don't need the rear light. You can see here the taillight has 3 basic operation modes. The current mode you picked, that fast flash, which indicates a car is approaching, similar to the Garmin feature, and it's a nice way to capture driver's attention. Then you have that solid mode, which you see here getting triggered quite often. So this is a brake functionality and basically detects deceleration, and then it'll switch to the solid mode from whatever mode you're in. Now it is a nice feature, but you can see it's overly sensitive. And like a lot of brake sensors, they can have a lot of false positives. So even if you're just slightly slowing down, it might get triggered, or bumps would trigger it. So one big downside of any brake sensor, it doesn't know when you're actually braking. It's just sort of guessing from the accelerometer that's built in. You can also see that fast flash works really well, but it is a little bit inconsistent. There's some sort of timeout built in. So if you have a bunch of cars approaching, it's not going to fast flash for each of them. There seems to be some kind of wait between those. The brake sensor does work well. You can see when you're actually slowing down, it does work. But again, a lot of false positives. The taillight itself is not bad. It's only 20 lumens, and it's not nearly as good as a lot of the other SEEMEE products. So that's one disappointing feature about this. It would have been nice to see more of the SEEMEE functionality here, like the multiple LEDs and more fancy setups, but it does work well. You have side visibility, and you can see even from medium distances, the taillight is visible as the LEDs are quite wide. Here you can see the radar display on our Bryton S800. The SEEMEE 508 is compatible with nearly any GPS computer as they use the same basic protocol. You have an all-green indicator, which indicates all the cars are gone. You have a red indicator to show that cars are approaching quickly or they're very close to you. And then a yellow one, which is not shown. That's just a notification that a car is approaching. The radar is sensitive enough to indicate a motorcycle or even bicycles approaching you, which is really nice. So you're always aware of what's around you. Now let's compare the SEEMEE 508 with other taillights on the market. We don't actually have the Garmin Varia rear radar, but we do have the Bryton Guardia. This one's not released yet, but you can see it has a very more modern design, but very similar design language. You have a large radar surface on the bottom and then taillight on the top. I do like the Bryton version. It looks a little bit more modern, and the taillight has a nice transparent lens instead of this round design. One thing we're disappointed by with the SEEMEE 508 is that it doesn't share anything with the other SEEMEE taillights. So you can see the Magicshine SEEMEE taillights have always been one of our favorites, and this is the SEEMEE 200. And you can see really bright at 200 lumens. And this one actually has the bottom facing LED, which really illuminates everything around you. It's a really cool feature. And you can see you have fiber optic cob LED all the way around it. So it really illuminates around you with a focus LED down the center, while the 508 just has a ring of LEDs. So it would have been nice to see them incorporate more of the SEEMEE design into the 508. You also don't have one of our favorite features, which is the battery status checker. Simply press this and it will go different colors to indicate the battery status, while you just have to sort of guess with the 508 as it only has a low battery status indicator. The taillight itself is also sort of an okay taillight. At 20 lumens, it's not particularly bright. And the form factor doesn't have quite as much side visibility. So you can see the Bullet 200 from NiteRider has this almost mushroom shape that's visible at all angles. So really bright, while the 508 only has some side visibility up to 220 degrees with the lens. It's also not very sleek, as a lot of radars can't really be sleek because you have this big radar surface. So compare that to the Moonsport Cerberus, and you can see this hides behind your seatpost a lot better than a rear radar, but again, really hard to avoid when you need a large radar surface. Now let's go over the pros and cons for the SEEMEE 508. What we like about it is that it's an affordable price. It's nearly half the price of the equivalent Garmin radar unit, so it makes it a lot more approachable and budget friendly. You also have a wide beam angle, so it detects cars while you're turning, or even if you're on the side of the road. So it doesn't just have to be restricted to things behind you. You also have accurate detection with minimal false positives, so it's pretty impressive. Despite this being their first radar, it seems like they really got the calibration and the algorithm down. Some of the cons for the SEEMEE 508 is that you have a pretty much average taillight. It's not nearly as good as a lot of the other SEEMEE products. And instead you just have basic LEDs in a ring pattern. Also, the brake sensor cannot be disabled, which would have been nice. It's a great way to extend the runtime. As you can see, it had a lot of false positives. And finally, the Magene app doesn't really offer that much customization. You can essentially turn off the radar in each mode or the rate of the flash options. So it's not really worth downloading in my opinion. Taking everything into account, we'd give the SEEMEE 508 a 9.3 out of 10. It's a nice, affordable rear radar that hopefully brings more safety to a lot more cyclists on the road. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclist. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.